Hello and welcome to the Habit Architect, sponsored by Time Bandit. We're really excited about our guest today because we're going to dive into the notion of AI and automation as it relates to personal productivity and team productivity. I'm Michael Cups. I'll be your host today. I also have Reem, our co-host, joining us today. Hello, Reem.
Hello, everyone.
And just quickly about Time Bandit, our sponsor, I do want to mention today is a good day to announce this because we're talking to Nandan here, but we did embed our Habit Be AI into the mobile app. So now you can not only get your habits and your priorities working, but you can also ask advice while you're still in the app experience. So that's a fantastic thing. Go to timebandit.io to check that out. Check out the book and the do it yourself or do it for you or do it with you thing. So let's get to our guest today. Nandan, thank you so much for joining us today. We're so excited to see you.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you for having me.
Why don't we start with just maybe introduce yourself and Bot Nirvana and a little bit about how you got to where you do it, what you're doing today.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. Thank you, Reem. Hello, everyone. My name is Nandan Mullakara. I've been working in AI automation for about a decade now. I got into this while I was working at a company called Fujitsu. It's like an IBM of Japan. And we've looking at various ways we can help our customers reduce their operational costs, and one of the levers was offshore. And then we started seeing that automation, especially with RPA, was becoming really a feasible option. And then I got hooked onto it. So I later on went on to lead the RPA practice for America here in Fujitsu. And then I've been on my own for some time now. I'm founder Bot Nirvana. At Bot Nirvana, we help you keep up with the agentic world. So yeah, look forward to this discussion, Michael.
Yeah. Well, and I just a little bit more about Bot Nirvana. I follow your stuff all the time and they can find you on LinkedIn and so on. But you've got so many, I think what you do really well is you simplify what could be a very complex question into here's some comparison sheets, here's some grids that will put it all in order. And I always go to look to your stuff to see what to make sense of all this AI advancement that's happening and the agentic stuff, et cetera. So
that's awesome.
great to have you here. So as you know, on the Habit Architect, we talk a lot about personal habits, but I think they apply to teams to some degree. So feel free to weave in and out if you're talking about a team perspective or a personal perspective. But you and I were talking beforehand, and we talked about kind of the first episode of the Habit Architect, using the house metaphor as kind of the foundation is the values, the walls and plumbing is the habits, and then the exterior kind of protects you from the daily thing, where you need priority management. So why don't we start with the values? I mean, where you probably wouldn't think about using AI or automation when you're trying to assess your values, but it can play a part there, right?
Yes, you can. And, AI is a very interesting concept right now. And I want to step back and talk about where we are with AI right now. And that helps let's set some foundation in terms of how it can help you in your personal as well as your work life, right?
Yes, please.
And yes, values is one of the key things, right? But how can AI help? So the way AI can help is that being that thinking partner, right? And who can stand apart from you and see you from a different angle. And that was not available for us for some time now, right? I mean, never been available. That's something that's becoming available. But the point is, how did this become available? So that's a great story, right? And we've been working with artificial intelligence since ages. I mean, we've since prehistory. One of the dreams of humans have been that we need somebody who can think like us, right?
Yes.
So we went through many iterations. But the latest, let's just the 50 years back when people started looking at rule-based AI, which means that if you want to translate from French to English, you just tell, French, this is the word, English, this is the word. So it can bring it together, but it had its big limitations. And anything rule-based has its limitations. So, and then we discovered that, we can give it a lot of data and then it will give us the patterns. And that's good, right? I mean, it's basically the patterns. I can see like Michael Cups data and then it's pattern, and then I can actually tell Michael Cupp's values based on the data better than Michael Cups can, because he is biased by himself looking at himself, right? So that's what we call as machine learning, and machines were learning, right?
Yep.
But still, that's not as good as humans. The idea was that it should be pretty good, that somebody talking to it should not be able to differentiate. And now we can see with ChatGPT, it's almost there. And how we came there is that we started doing something called as neural networks, which is basically looking at our brain and seeing how we can, re-engineer or not back engineer that brain, right? And so that's a neural network. It's a lot of networks working together to think. Okay, so now, and that went on for many neural layers and things, and it's called deep learning now. And so deep learning, honest to God, even OpenAI doesn't know how it works. Okay, it is just that we put something and ChatGPT splits out something, and then we are like, oh my God, that's awesome, right? But what happened is that we took deep learning and put all the data of the human civilization, which is the internet, and you see that all these things are coming together. So the first thing is that we had this machine learning and everything coming together, and then we had an explosion of hardware, which is called as GPUs. So we are always working with CPUs, but GPU, which is what NVIDIA does, is a big it improves the processing power by a big amount. And then we have this whole data from the internet. We have been collecting data for like quite some years, right? So both came together. We have this artificial brain now. Now the great thing with this artificial brain, which is called as LLMs or large language models too, and you can see it as ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, is that they can actually think like people, and it also now going on to not just think but sense and act. Okay, but long answer to your question about values, but my point is that I wanted to just give some foundation of what AI and where we are with AI, so that see how we can help with all these things right now that we're talking about. So since now you have a thinking partner, it can look at all your data. And I think, Michael, you mentioned somewhere in your books, it can look at your social media feed. It can look at, your communications. So what happens is that it can learn based on what you're doing. And then it can suggest to you the values that it looks like for you, giving money to a charity is good. I mean, that's kind of your value. I mean, giving is a value for you, right? Or considering that you want to take on leadership, probably leadership is a value. So all those things can be a suggestion, but at the end of the day, Michael has to suggest. Okay. But I think the thing is that you got a great assistant now, and synthetic brain. It's not a human brain, but it's a synthetic brain which can help you with your values, which is much more easier, because I've gone through this whole personal development thing for quite some time, and I used to struggle with these values, in the sense that I would download a list of values from internet. There is and internet has been a great thing for data, right? So but then now we're bringing data plus this analysis and synthetic brain. So now it can take the data and compare to what Mr. Michael is doing, and then compare that to and say, these could be your values, but you decide. So I think that's a great way to start. I think we should know our foundation. So just like I said, these are the foundations for AI. For your foundation for your life, like you say, is the value.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I used AI in that regard, Nandan. I had 5 values, and I lumped them as a broad category: family, right, wealth and health, authenticity, and giving back. And when I took them to a GPT, it actually went deeper, and it allowed me to think a little bit more about, okay, what does that value really mean, and how can I act upon that value? Because it kind of just made me, it was a conversation with myself, an unbiased self, to challenge me on a few things.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah.
And then I could dig deeper. And I know, Reem, you had a question about values, I think.
Yeah. Well, you've mentioned that AI can actually analyze past decisions, behaviors, and even social media to help identify our core values. I know you've been through the how does it work a bit, but can you tell us how does this actually work, and how it helps people, and what truly matters, and what truly matters to them? And once AI identifies our value, how can we use that data to make sure that we're actually living by them?
That second part of the question, I think, is a question for Michael. Yeah. But I can tell you the AI part.
The
And
AI part.
it's a great question. It's a great question. And I wanted to now also one more step more, Reem, in terms of AI capabilities, right? So we spoke about the big brain we have developed, right? Like it's like a human thinking brain. Um, Now what we are also developing as a next step is memory for that brain, in the sense like just like we have a memory. So what happens nowadays when you go to Chat GPT or Claude is that when we are starting a conversation, we are always starting it from the beginning, and that was the case some, like say, a few years, like a year back or something. Chat GPT has added something called as a memory. So I continue to take the example of Michael, and I hope that's okay, Michael. But
Yes.
ChatGPT's memory, when he's using ChatGPT, ChatGPT is having a memory, and it actually remembers that, okay, Michael is the guy who wrote the Habit Architect. He's a thought leader in that space. He has worked on automation. He's those kind of things. ChatGPT is remembering, right? So once it's remembering, Reem, to your question, that's how it can help, because the idea is that it can understand, discern pattern. It's a prediction engine, but unless it has the data, it has the data of the world but not of Michael. So how does it get Michael's data? So that's what is memory. Now the memory has been very limited. Okay, so like my Chat GPT memory is full because it just keeps on remembering everything, and then you got to delete things. But sorry, but now what we're coming to, and Microsoft made this breakthrough some time back, is that we're coming to an unlimited memory, which is amazing, because that means that whatever Michael told it, did, everything it remembers. And so across the transactions, across everything, it remembers. So tomorrow when I come back, and already Google has it, I see that. So whenever you actually start talking to it, it remembers everything that you have said it. So its responses becomes much more useful. So I think the brain plus memory makes this possible in terms of helping people with their values, with their tasks and prioritization and whatever, right? And there's one more concept for tool, which we'll come to earlier, and that triad of the brain, memory, and tool makes it AI agents, which everyone is talking about now. But I'll hold on to that. But I think just the brain plus memory makes it a very useful engine.
Yeah. And
so what I heard is, sorry. I was just asking, he is the GPT or the AI is memorizing anything that is directly said to him to memorize, or if I'm just typing in, he's just like getting what's between the lines.
Yeah, it decides for itself what it needs to remember. So if you go to ChatGPT and if you're working on it, and then you give it some prompt, and then I say that I'm founder Bot Nirvana and I do these things, it gives a small message underneath that, save to memory, which means that it thought that it is useful to remember for long, and so it remembers that. Yeah, good question.
Yeah, that's good. That is thanks, Reem. That's a good question. By the way, we had Butch in Atlanta says hello or greetings, and Juana Selena, I may have mispronounced that, so sorry, but said it's so interesting what we're talking about. So that's great feedback. Keep it coming. Ask your questions if you'd like. So okay, you said something there that just struck some of the words I use when I start talking about habits, and it's about accountability partners, right? So simple habit tracking is in our app, and we think that's an accountability partner for you. But what you were talking about is an accountability partner times 10, because it remembers what you said when you were deciding on which habits you want to start. And so that's interesting. Can we talk a little bit about habits and AI? I mean, that to me is the ultimate. I mean, one of the biggest things about habits, to sustain habits, either, Reem, we've talked about breaking a bad habit or building a new habit, is about accountability over time and small steps. So how can AI or agentic AI help us with our habit building?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, and I think you say habits as a structure for life, and that's I mean that's sure surely the thing, because even for my personal this thing, we go to our level of systems and not what we have planned. It's basically our habits carries us forward, and a creature of habits. So I think from an AI perspective, again, it's the same thing. Like, like Michael, you have an app, and you can indicate what habits you're doing.
Right.
But then it can also look at, let's say, your conversations, and your calendar invites, what kind of thing you are. And so that's where, the thing is, when we do it, like, we may cheat, or we don't even realize that we are cheating too. Whereas AI can tell you explicitly that, this is what you're exactly doing. You went to the gym on these days. I don't see this on the calendar, really.
Yeah.
So, or I don't see. So let's say, I go to my local YMCA. Yep. And it knows that I go to YMCA for the gym, and it says, your GPS or your location tracker doesn't show that you've been.
Yeah.
So things like that it can track, and it can keep you honest. But also, I think it can keep reminding you of those things. Like, if it's an assistant, you're a chat GPT, and then it can you can tell it, you should remind me of this, and then maybe even, like, push you to gently push me in the morning to go exercise, things like that.
Well, yeah, exactly. When I was training the Habit Bee, which is part of Time Bandit, it was one of the things that I was conscious of, and I don't know if I've accomplished it yet, but when I was entering training data for it, I was really trying to help it have empathy as well. And I don't know if AI can have empathy. You probably know better than I do. But some feedback we got from the initial test group was that they felt like it was listening and responding in a way that was encouraging to them, not belittling them, or it was that's okay, let's try again, or something, that those types of words. And it's not naturally trained that way, right? Or is it is it?
So that's a very good point, Michael, and I'm glad you're bringing it up, because I think one of the things when we are using AI for people to understand is that it can be what you want it to be. Okay. So one of the things mistakes we make, it's like a human, we anthropomorphize it and all that. That's wrong. It's not. It's a prediction engine, and it acts as a synthetic intelligence, but it depends on the prompts and what you gave it and the data you gave it. Okay. And also the controls that you give it. So I think you telling it what it needs to be, that's exactly what you want it to be doing. So one of the things I think in an AI world, and why I think this discussion is very important, is because you need to be clear about your priorities and what you want from AI. And that's the most important thing right now. Our past age has been about learning things, having knowledge, getting a degree, and then applying it in an industry, right? And that's been the industrial era jobs. But now the industrial era jobs are all going to be like, whatever you could learn, the AI can learn much better. It has the whole knowledge, not of what you've learned, if not just of your college textbook, of all the whole internet of the civilization. So what is the knowledge that you're bringing extra? No, you don't. What you bring is the clarity of purpose, clarity of what your business does, clarity of the tasks that you want to do, clarity of things you want to execute. So that's why I'm saying this discussion is important, because once you know your values, once you have your habits, once you have your priorities, then AI can help you. If you don't have your priorities, AI will take you in the way you probably don't want. Just like that thing, right? If you don't know where you're going, it doesn't matter which way you take, right? I forgot that.
Yeah. No, that's great. I love that statement you just made there. If you think about the relationship between your synthetic self, if I'm using that word right, and us,
they call it a digital twin now.
The clarity of purpose is great. And by the way, Satish said, "Thank you, Nandan. You indeed simplify the complex topic." So that's a good share as well. Reem, any questions about habits for Nandan? And
I love the idea of AI automating habit building. Most people struggle with consistency, but AI doesn't forget. Can you share how AI can help us automate and track habits to make them stick? For example, could AI actually remind us when to start or finish a task, schedule workouts based on when we have the most energy, or even prompt us to check in with friends, family?
Yeah. Reem, you keep asking great questions, right? So that brings me to my third concept, which is tools. So we spoke about a big brain, right? Which is a synthetic brain, which has got lots of capacity now. It actually beats human intelligence in many benchmarks now, and it will beat everything. It will go past everything that we know. Okay, that's a huge thing for us, for civilization. Second thing, it spoke about memory. So it remembers about Michael all the time, and so it can help him better. It remembers everything. So that's memory, right? The third thing is tools. So the tools is a way for it to act in the world. Okay. So now, Reem, to your question about, can it access the calendar? It can through tools. And so tools means what we've been calling as application programming interfaces, or API, which is nothing but a way for a machine to talk to an app. Yeah. Talk to an app and carry out the action. So a simple example is, you said, okay, you identified the habits that you want along with ChatGPT, and now you're saying that, okay, put this in my calendar that I should be going to the gym at 7 a.m. every 3 days a week, for example. Then it accesses Google Calendar, puts that in that, and does it through an API, and that's a tool. Right? And there can be many tools, right? Now it can send this tool can put a reminder in your Apple iOS reminders so that it can remind you, or any other thing that you want. So basic thing is that the action concept comes in. So what we are bringing up is a brain which can think, it can remember, it can sense its environment, also act. So it's so basically you're getting a digital assistant and even a physical assistant, like you have Tesla robots, which can actually be a great companion for you, as long as, to Michael's point, that we should be giving it right prompts, controlling it well. And we should talk about challenges too, but I'll let you guys at whatever.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. I think Reem, what we need is a robot to follow you around and say, go work out.
Yeah, I need it with discipline tools.
Drink some juice, drink some water.
We're not just having any assistant. I'm having myself as an assistant because she knows me best, and this is the best thing. It's fascinating.
Yes. So, well, that's fantastic. So when you start talking about tools, and that's the interesting thing, I think that's coming to life now. I mean, there's so many. I mean, if you just open up a browser and type in AI tools, the magnitude of things being built these days is big. But when I think about priority management, and particularly, I use the construct of the Eisenhower matrix. I think tools have a remarkable capability already today, but it's just getting better, particularly in that delegate quadrant, right? So there's the do first that it can help with, and there's the scheduling that can help with, but that delegation capability is really getting powerful. And in my opinion, and really when I coach people and talk to them one-on-one, and they say, well, how do I delegate? I don't have a team, right? Who am I delegating to? Well, now we're effectively getting a team, right?
Yeah.
So, can you share a little bit about what kind of tasks would be good to delegate today? What kind of tasks can AI pick up and run for us completely, or maybe say don't run completely?
Okay. Yeah. Don't ask me, ask the AI now, because because remember, it's got a brain, Michael. It knows about you. It can act. So now, the great thing, and this is an amazing possibility, is that when Michael comes to his desk, and then he's based on whatever. So let me give you one more background. So I use something called as voice notes at this point of time on my phone, and I just whatever thoughts I have, I just dictate to it, and then it's an AI. It's remembering my thoughts, and I'll share one more nugget. Remind me about it. Just yesterday I discovered. But so like Michael is giving his thoughts, and it need not be on this. But it can be on your social media or any of these things like what Michael is talking about. So based on that. And remember, it also knows Eisenhower matrix. Okay, it doesn't need to read Michael's book, by the way. Just kidding. But it also knows about Michael's book. So if you want to tell it that based on Michael's book, Time Bandit, prioritize this task for me. So it knows about a book also, and then it says, okay, based on all these things, based on what I know about Michael, based on what are your priorities right now, based on what are you strategizing right now, these are my 10 tasks, I think. you should be doing at this point of time. And then among those tasks, since it knows the Eisenhower matrix, it tells you that, okay, these are, by the way, I love Eisenhower matrix. I've been like doing that since quite a long time. I mean, not doing it, knowing it. I try and do it, but but it can tell you that, yeah, this is not urgent, but this is very important in your life. So maybe this is like the high priority. This is urgent, but urgent and important, but these are fires you should put out and things like that, right? And these are very low value tasks, maybe you don't even need to do it. So it prioritizes and tell you, it doesn't tell you which is right. Now Michael says that, okay, I love this, so now I have 3 tasks I think I need to do. One is this urgent thing, which I need to put out a fire in my organization. So what AI does here, and this is fascinating, is that AI will tell you that, okay, great. So if that's the thing you want to do first, I can do among this. Let me break this down in subtasks. Okay. And here is a plan. If you like that plan, I can do 3 of these things. Michael, you take care of 1. 5 of these things, send it to offshore. 2 of this, send it to your team in US, and your task will be done, right? And then I can track it for you. So just look at what is happening here. What is happening is that it knows about you, it can prioritize it, it can delegate the things, and also do many of those tasks there. So we're looking at an partnership between a human, a synthetic intelligence, and other team members working with you, or partners working with you.
Yeah. I think that's fascinating too. And when I think about task in the business world or personal world, if you think about task fusion, which to me is, when you go into your office and you start up Microsoft Outlook, you may have to-do lists there, and you have scheduled things on your schedule, and then you open up Salesforce.com or whatever system you use, and you've got tasks there, and then you go somewhere else, and at home, you've got to call the doctor to make an appointment for your kid, and you've got all these things in different places, and that's one of the things that I love about what the possibilities are, is kind of bringing it in one view, whether it still sits in Salesforce.com as a task. Just give you a view into it that says, okay, now I know what I need to do, because they were all in all these places, but now I'm kind of instantly getting a view of what needs to happen.
Yeah, and I think that's very important, is because we've had a very lopsided view of life, in the sense that, especially if you've been working, and I've been a culprit to it. You forget spending time with your family or taking care of your health, because we've just somehow put this in silos, and then somehow we put like money is the most important thing. So the work and ensuring those are, and so then what happens is that a lot of the other things, your core values that we started with, a lot of values are so slipping, right? And so that's where I think an AI, like you said, Michael, brings everything together, makes it a holistic thing. So just see how it can help you. I mean, it's really awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Reem, what are you thinking about priorities?
That was amazing. I mean, for AI to actually analyze our workload and tell us which tasks we should be delegating or which we should be removing or automating, I just want to ask you if there is in-depth information that we can get on how do they analyze our workload, rather than just like, do they only use our calendars? So I should be just updating my calendars, what's going on, or what should I actually do?
Yeah. So I'll take this opportunity to also, highlight the challenges and things you should be aware, because while this is all awesome, like we spoke about, this can also act the other way. Okay. So to your question, you should be in control. You want to give it access to calendars that you want it to. Okay. Maybe there is some calendar may not be, calendar also sometimes, you have some sensitive information which you don't want others to know. So one of the things with AI is that it's an extension of the internet and the data. So one of the things you should understand is, whenever you give ChatGPT some information, just think that it's going to be in the public domain. So so just be careful, because there's been times when people saw their medical record out there when they were talking with ChatGPT, which was never supposed to be public, right? I think they're taking steps to control it because of all the controversies. But I think the thing is, we should basically assume that if you're using a cloud-based software like ChatGPT, you should assume that it will be online. It will be available to others. So you should basically be very, very careful and what you're connecting it to. Okay. But now, having said that, I think we will get to a situation where you will have private models, in the sense that the brain that we spoke about earlier. The great thing that happened last week or a couple of weeks back with DeepSeek is that it threw another great, and I'm amazed at the, like, just being even in AI, I'm amazed at the innovation that's happening. So they brought in a lot of innovations, but the biggest innovation that they brought in is that they actually took that big model and they said this model can actually train a smaller model. So you have, and they simultaneously release two other models. It's called as distillation. So I'm running DeepSeek right now on my computer, which we can't do for a a reasoning model like a GPT-01, right? So what it enables is that two things. One is you can put it on your mobile phone, for example, but also there is no token cost. Token cost, for example, is something we didn't talk about, but that's something which can easily add up, especially when you use ChatGPT through an API and app. So app providers, they had a big tough problem in terms of developing apps because these models would take a lot of tokens. Now you can have it locally and then it will not take tokens, right? So for such a situation where there is sensitive data, tend to look for things which is running locally and not giving data, because just like the internet, your data could end up on the internet, and that may not be what you want. Having said that, you should be in control. I mean, I shouldn't say you have control now. You got to, I think that's where again important. I think I should bring it back to Bot Nirvana is, be part of communities where you can make sense of this and you're understanding it. You think you know things, but you don't know. Trust me, because I thought I knew, but I didn't, till I had a bunch of people around, and you're getting multiple perspective and multiple ways you're knowing about AI. And then you know that, oh my God, I didn't know about this thing, right? Just like yesterday, one guy reached out to me and he was giving me some, airline document. I just want to compare. First thing I said is, this can be done with AI. Great thing. But step back. Don't put it on ChatGPT, right? So that education that is not available, and most of the people don't know. Most of the people don't even look at ChatGPT. They don't know what it is. I gave some people a ChatGPT like thing that we created, and they were giving like prompts like Google. And so people have to understand the challenges, what it does, and then apply it in a right manner. Otherwise, you will repent it later, because I don't know if you guys have heard of Yuval Noah Harari. I'm a big fan of him. If people have not heard, you should look up his works like Nexus and even Sapiens. But he says that if an AI, or it's not just AI, if anyone knows more about you than you know about yourself, then game is over. So be careful.
Yeah. Well, by the way, I just want to address a chat here. There's somebody on LinkedIn that said, that first spelled John Quinnesburg. It said greetings from John Quinnesburg, and then they said, "Can AI help me spell?" It's actually Johannesburg. So, but anyway, so we've got quite a global audience today. But so welcome from Johannesburg. So, Nandan, that's an interesting thing.
There's some background noise.
Yeah, there's some background noise. That was you. Sorry, Reem. So that's an interesting thing about you only want to give it the right information. So the recommendation is not to upload your credit card statement to ChatGPT and say, help me analyze this. But what about, your app that you might get with Chase Bank or Bank of America, whatever you bank, they now are claiming here's some AI that you can ask it about, where am I spending my money? Can we assume that that's protected into your account only because it's offered through the vendor or the bank itself? Or
yes, I think again, I mean, hopefully the bank is doing it. If it is not doing their work, then we are screwed anyway.
Yeah. So you could take their recommendations. Maybe it says you're spending too much on dining out, and then you could go back to ChatGPT and say, okay, how do I have this a similar experience at cooking at home as I would dining out, and it would probably give you some recipes. Is that fair to say?
Yeah,
Something
yeah.
like that?
No, I just want to step back and say that what I do is I look at the company's histories before I even, so like I trust Apple, for example, more than Google in
Yeah.
terms of privacy. I mean, there are where things I trust Google more than Apple, but in terms of privacy, I trust Apple more because they are privacy oriented and they don't need to sell our data to make their money. They have got a,
Yeah.
they've got a complete ecosystem. So I would say, yeah, even your banks, go with banks that you trust.
Yeah.
And be very, very careful. I mean, this is a time to be extremely careful. If even I fall for all these things. So I'm telling you that again, no one is impervious to it. But be careful.
So
pay attention.
Pay attention. That's
safe,
right.
Yeah, because AI chats is everywhere. Even on WhatsApp now, there's an AI meta chat that you can ask or like send a message so it suggests a reply to it. Like AI is everywhere. So I use that. So I'm just like, now I'm in my head. I'm like, oh my God, my information on the internet.
No, so that's the thing. So like Gmail, if you're using Gmail, it already has all your data and it's suggesting a reply. It's that you've got it. But yeah, I mean, you're trusting Gmail at this point of time. If you don't trust Gmail, go and there is like an app called Hello. So they are more privacy oriented. So yeah, it's up to you how you want to do it.
Yeah, we've got a great question. I'll go ahead and ask, and then we'll get back to the habits and values and things. But the question was, if the mobile phone has built-in AI, what if somebody hacks Samsung? I'm guessing this person has a Samsung phone. Is all their personal information there if that AI is listening?
Yeah, so if somebody hacks Samsung and your model is local, your data is local, then they don't get it, because usually the data that people get hold of is the data in the cloud, in the sense that they've just taken your data from your local and put it out there. So, and I hope people will provide in future all these safeguards so that if it is local, it's not exposed to other things, and it's up to you. Again, the responsibility is on you. You need to check how it is happening. Don't go by what Samsung says. If it is local, trust that it's local. I also, what I do is I go and check independent forums like Reddit and everything, where people have already discussed about it, and they say, I trust Samsung and not Samsung. I trust this Pixel phone because, for example. But I mean, honestly, I mean, just in this terms of mobile things, again, I would go back to Apple for privacy rather than an Android, because Google search is meant to basically use your data. So
to learn. So that's a great jumping off point. I appreciate the question, by the way, whomever asked that. It came in. I just see LinkedIn user. I don't see the name, but thank you for the question. So Nandan, I think you did a really good job explaining how we can kind of identify and refine our values, how we could use accountability for habits, and prioritization is right in the wheelhouse of automation. But there's a lot to learn here. Although I did just hear you say I need to read those privacy statements that I just clicked through on websites. But besides that,
one tip there now is that earlier we didn't have a chance. Like, we would be presented with a 70-page PDF and say, do you accept it? And this all bloody legalese, and I'm like,
terms and conditions.
Get the hell out of it. I don't have time, so I just say yes. Right now, you can take that whole PDF, put it in ChatGPT, and ask it, what the hell is it saying? I do that all the time. Is it having any bloody red flags for me? You know me. I'm doing all these things. Does it have any red flags? If it has, and sometimes it does come back, and then I say no.
Yeah. So where would so you're so adept in this, and I know go to Bot Nirvana for a lot of information. But if somebody wanted to think about using a GPT or any AI or automation, where would you say that they start their journey? Let's say they're not technically proficient today, but they they're an accountant or something, and they want to get started. Where do you send them first?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So at this point, I basically say ChatGPT, because that's what everyone knows, and it is not so difficult to sign up with the caveats like we discussed. And there is Claude, which is from Anthropic, Claude.ai. This is Gemini, Google's thing, right? Again, you should be careful about Gemini. There is Meta from Facebook. So those are all the options. And the way I see it, each of these models or LLMs, they have over a period of time developed a personality. It's like just like a synthetic personality that they have developed. So for each of those things, I go to different things for various things. Like for example, Claude, I go in there for writing. Chat GPT, I go for strategizing. Google is known for search, so I go there for research. That's one more thing. We're replacing search with research, but that's a different point. But so yeah, I mean, there are different models I think people should explore, but I think the core is that people should experiment with this, understand it, take some basic understanding in terms of I talk about various skills that you need, but I think one of the core skills that everyone needs is what is prompting. And many people, especially me also coming from technical, we don't attach more value to prompting. We think it's, what is it, right? And then when I give it to people, like I said, I rolled out a tool to the community, and they're like, giving one word, and then they're expecting like Google to come back and know what it is. So one simple thing I tell people is that, and I have a mnemonic, it's called ICE. So it's called Identity, Context, and Examples. So you should always go to ChatGPT. And then you should give it an instruction. So back to my point about being clear about what you want, about your purpose. And so you should be very, very clear about your task. And this I in ICE is very important. You should give it the instruction. And like Michael said, whatever instruction it does, it will follow that. Remember that. So, so you should give it an instruction, which is instruction should be a clear instruction what you want it to do. Now, the second part of the ICE is C is context. Now, the context is really, you should be giving context, but it is not mandatory. You just give an instruction, it can give. But when you give it context, what happens is that it knows in what context it should tell you that thing, right? Otherwise, it's giving you some answer and then you're keeping on trying to get a better answer. So if you give it a context, like, I'm working right now on this particular business and I'm facing this challenge at this point of time. So basically, then you're giving further instruction. This is why I'm asking this question, right? That's the context. And the third thing is the example. An example is how you want that answer to be. So you can say that, this report, for example, I want this report with this as the outline, for example. So just giving an example so that you're giving it a guide in terms of how you want the format to be. This is not much required because sometimes, most of the time, maybe you just want a strategy, you want just an answer. But many times, if you want a specific way you want it to answer, then you want to give it an example. So this is, but I mean, that's a quick prompting basic, but I think we need to work on learning to work with the AI. And the AI is getting better and better. So nowadays I don't do prompt. I go to console.anthropic.com, and even Gemini has it. You tell it in simple English and it generates a prompt for you. But you can take that prompt and paste it. But all these things, again, you should know about it. So that awareness is more important. So awareness, understanding where the AI is going to is very important. Because maybe today you are doing prompting. Now this console tool is available. You don't know about it. You're doing the wrong, you're falling behind because people who are using console is ahead. So you just need to be aware of things and know how to apply it, and then keep practicing, experimenting, and you'll get there.
That's one thing I have noticed is the more clear and not necessarily concise, but the more clear I am in the instruction of the prompt, the better outcome I get faster. So that's interesting. We do have a long question on the chat, but I think what I'll do is just say to that listener, why don't we pose that question to Nandan, and we can give you a written response in the LinkedIn comments, because that's a long one and we're running out of time. So we appreciate the comment and the questions, but we'll see if we can take that one offline. So stay tuned on the comments, and we'll see if we can get you an answer for that one.
I have a question before we get out of the prompting section. Does it help when I tell AI who he is? Like, you're a copywriter with 30 years experience in X and Y and Z. Can you help me in the following? Will that help my prompt be better?
So good question. So again, this is a case of the AI getting better. And so let's say a year back, I would have said yes. And I used to do that. Now I don't, because the AI has gotten more better, especially the better models. So you don't need to, as long as you're giving a good context. So at the end of the day, what you're giving it is a context. When in that ice, we are giving it a context, like, you are acting like this. Instead of telling that you're acting like this, which people found as useful, you can say that I am working on this right now. Then it knows that, yeah, you're working on a report, and it should act like a report generator or things like that. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's still helpful. There's nothing wrong in doing that. It's better to have that than not to have it. But one thing to remember is when you're doing prompt, especially when you're using it on APIs and all that, the tokens add up. The cost that happens is between how much of the prompt is. The longer the prompt, it could cost a little bit more. So you can keep your prompts efficient too. Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. Nandan, thank you so much for joining us today and talking about this stuff. It's an incredible journey that we're all kind of living through right now, I think. And it started with RPA, what was that, about 7-8 years ago?
For us, people will come at it from different directions.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's amazing that just the convenience, the dangers, but also just the assistance that we're going to get over time. So thank you so much for sharing that with us, especially because I know you do more coaching and counseling to businesses on efficiency. So talking about us personally sometimes gets a little different.
Yeah, no, I had to think through this, and I went to Michael's YouTube, looked up his thing. I even asked ChatGPT about your book, Michael. It knows about your book. So,
That's good.
So yeah, I used AI to prepare for this. So
yeah. Well, thank you so much. Well, so Nandan, why don't you share with our viewers how best to engage with you if they want to pick up a question with you, or their business needs some help with intelligent automation? How do they find you?
Yeah, many ways. I think one easy way is to just search for me, Nandan Mullakara. It's NandanMullakara on Google. You get all the links. My website is nandan.info. It's firstname.info. And Bot Nirvana is botnirvana.org. Or you can just search for Bot Nirvana on Google. So, and yeah, LinkedIn. LinkedIn is my favorite place. Also YouTube. Nowadays, YouTube also there's a lot of people joining in. I love YouTube because YouTube is where you can say things authentically, because now this text generation AI can just generate some lot of stuff, whereas even it can make synthetic videos. But human-made videos, I think, will have more value in the longer run. So I'm focusing more on YouTube. So yeah, LinkedIn, YouTube, anyway you can, many channels. Thank you. And thank you for having me, Michael and Reem, today. Thank you.
Of course, we enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I know Reem, I could see in her body language, she enjoyed the conversation a lot.
Fascinating, to be honest. I just know that AI is a partner now. And all I can think of is that I can feed AI my childhood and my current life, and it's just make her do the decisions. I'm not going to do anything anymore.
Yeah. Just be careful, as I said. But
it's going to tell you you're not too tired to go to the gym, is what it's going to say. Put those running shoes on and get out there. So, so thank you so much. Next week, to everybody on the Habit Architect, we've got a fantastic guest. She is now a single mother. She's a widow, and she's going to talk about how, even though life changes, you still have responsibilities, and how to navigate that work-life blend, which Nandan spoke a little bit about as well, is not getting out of balance. And so we're really looking forward to Tabby joining us next week. So tune in next Thursday, and we'll have that conversation. Nandan, thanks again. Reem, thank you both. So
thank you all. Had so much fun. Bye-bye.